everyone, a long time no see. Let me have a refreshing lemonade. Cheers, everyone. Today we're gonna talk about how conspiracy theories ruined my life. Just a disclaimer, this video is probably gonna be pretty long because I have a lot of things I want to say, so I might split it into two parts. And before I even start talking about how conspiracy theories ruined my life, I want to tell you like a little bit of a story from my teenage years about conspiracy theories actually, and how I found out that conspiracy theories are not good for me. So this was about when I was 16 or 17. I come from Slovakia. Hi, how are you? I currently live in Austria, but my mom had this amazing idea that we are gonna move into the countryside of Hungary. Hungary is basically south of Slovakia. It's right, they share a pretty long border. And my mom wanted to live there because she always wanted a house and they were cheaper there or whatever, I don't remember. So we bought a house there. And the thing is, it was pretty far away from where I went to school, because I still went to school in the capital of Slovakia, which is Bratislava. That's where I grew up. I went there to school, I had all my friends there, and I didn't really speak Hungarian. I still don't speak Hungarian. Sadly, my parents never taught me because my grandfather was a Slovak nationalist and he didn't like Hungarian people. You know, even Europeans hate each other. We were living there and I didn't speak Hungarian at all. I didn't have any friends there because I couldn't really talk to them. And it was in summertime when I didn't have to go to school. It took like forever to get to Bratislava where all my friends were. So I didn't really do it regularly. I was mostly stuck at this house with my family, and there were a lot of issues I had at that exact moment in my life. My parents were probably getting a divorce. My mom basically left the house to go work somewhere else to make enough money. I don't really want to go too much into details here, but yeah, she and my father were separating, and I, someone with a pretty long history of mental illness, I wasn't taking it that well. Plus, my mom always sort of worked as a very good, comforting presence for me. Like she always calmed me down, especially my anxiety and depression. And suddenly she wasn't there; she was somewhere else. It was peak summer. I had nothing to do. I had nowhere to go. I had no friends. I couldn't even talk to the kids that I saw every day because I didn't speak Hungarian. So what did I do? Well, good that you asked. I spent a lot of time online on the interwebs, specifically on YouTube, where I began to watch a lot of mystery crime stuff, basically bordering on conspiracy theory stuff, and somehow I got into alien conspiracies. Now you have to understand that my mind was already pretty vulnerable at this time because I was basically in a bubble. I didn't really talk to a lot of people besides my two brothers and my dad that were there that summer. I was having really bad sleeping issues. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to sleep the whole night. I had a really bad anxiety, and I just kind of felt really bummed out about everything. Yeah, and I would watch these conspiracy theories about the aliens and how they are planning to attack our planet and take over or whatever. I started believing in it, because I was 16 or 17. There was nowhere else. I didn't really talk to any people about this. It was just in my head. No one was telling me that is not the case, that this is just ridiculous and this is just some people online on the interwebs making shit up that they don't have any proof. Once you're in that bubble, and you believe it, you believe it. I can't even really tell you exactly the stuff I was watching. I tried actually finding it a couple days ago, but I just couldn't. I do think that YouTube is currently trying to shadow ban conspiracy theory stuff, or at least harmful ones, even though I don't think the specific one was harmful to anyone. It was just dumb. And this one night, I used to have these panic attacks in the middle of the night. I would fall asleep and then basically wake up, but I would still be sort of awake, and I just didn't know how to get myself out of it. It almost felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. The dream that I had, or whatever the nightmare was, which at this particular moment was dream about aliens coming to get me, you know, and coming to like take over our planet. I know, I'm not crazy, by the way, okay?
You ever seen a UFO in these parts?
It was a shitty time of my life. Yeah, and I woke up and I was having a panic attack. I really thought that some fucking aliens were gonna get me. I had to like actually physically stand up and call my mom and tell her what I was thinking and believing for her to tell me this is complete nonsense. This is not true. Like, there are no aliens coming to get you or anyone else, and there is no conspiracy like that. The videos online are just stupid shit and you should stop watching them. And that, you know, didn't help at first, but when I was, you know, I started talking to my brothers and then my dad, and they all told me like, yeah, dude, it's just like, don't believe everything that's online, you know, don't believe everything that's on the internet. After seeing that, you know, there were no aliens in the real world, you know, there were no attacks, no one was talking about this wasn't in the news, it was just some kind of fringe group on the internet. I realized that it was just made up by people on the interweb for whatever reason, you know, maybe they themselves actually believed in it, maybe they were just chasing views and clicks, or maybe they were also trying to be malicious, I don't know, but that was basically the moment where I distanced myself from stuff like that, and I stopped watching conspiracy stuff online, and I didn't want to have anything to do with those sort of theories anymore, because I realized that not everything on the internet is true. Most of it is basically just bullshit, and we as adults need to know what we can trust and what is legit out there. When I was 16, I didn't know that, you know, I had to learn that. Now, imagine a global pandemic. Billions of people are stranded at home, not being able to go anywhere, basically living in a bubble, cut off from their families, their friends, their colleagues, spending a lot of time on their computers. Well, what can go wrong, right? Now, I'm not saying that conspiracy theories are something that you are not allowed to engage in and are really harmful, and you should never click on any conspiracy videos, because some of them are just fun and dumb, you know, they're like about Beyonce being secretly a lemon or something.
Is Elvis Presley alive?
Absolutely, I would testify it in a court of law.
In simple terms, there is a predator race which take a reptilian form. They're feeding off humanity. They've turned humanity into a slave race.
According to flat Earth theory, our planet is suspended in space and surrounded by an enormous barrier of ice so that the oceans and delicious fish don't just drain off the edges and into space.
I even like, you know, engaging in like ridiculous conspiracy theories. You know, they're ridiculous, they're not true. I mean, entertaining them is not going to do anyone any harm. And as long as you go into it with that sort of mindset, then it's like, you're good, you know? And we also have to admit that some conspiracy theories actually proved to be true.
Vast and wildly complex, but here's the only thing that matters. The US government has been spying on its citizens for years.
For over 2 decades, they conducted illegal experiments on unwitting human subjects, primarily from the US and Canada. It involved behavior modification under the influence of LSD and other hallucinogenics.
The Canadian government hired a university professor to develop a technological method of detecting homosexuality in people, according to CBC.
You know, the government... Ooh. Oh God, du hast mich erschreckt. I remember back in the day, you know, Shane Dawson, former YouTube star.
I laid the cat down on her back, and then I moved her little chicken legs, like, you know, spread open or whatever. And I was like, if I just like hump, but like on her tummy, like that's not weird, like whatever. And then I humped it, and I kept going, and I came out.
When he did like conspiracy stuff. I actually enjoyed that content. Like I didn't take it seriously. It was just, I knew it was like trash, but I still liked engaging in it, even though I knew it's stupid. And I think that's what like drags a lot of people in. Let's just be honest, like most of our lives are very like mundane and pretty boring and not very interesting. And conspiracy theories are kind of a way to spice your life up. It makes life look more interesting than it actually is. You know what I mean? And I think that is what attracts a lot of people at first, and then they sort of get dragged down the rabbit hole of the more insane stuff via YouTube and Facebook. We're gonna talk about that later. So where do conspiracy theories start? You know, where do they originate from? Why do they start? What like powers a conspiracy theory? I think behind every conspiracy there is always like a grain of truth. Everything else about that theory can be complete and utter nonsense, but there is going to be like that one grain of truth that is attached to it. For example, Pizzagate, or the whole Jeff, the one that didn't kill himself. They have a lot of things in common, right? So Pizzagate, if you don't know, is a conspiracy theory about, well, I can't really say it, child abuse. Let's just say child abuse.
Pizzagate. People actually believe a conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton and her former campaign manager, John Podesta, ran a child sex ring at a pizzeria in D.C.
People that are Pizzagate stands believe that there is this global conspiracy that powerful and wealthy people basically sexually abuse children on a massive scale. What did Jeff do? What did he do? Well, he essayed, sexually assaulted a lot of women, and some of them actually turned out to be underaged. Now, as you can see, there is some truth to this conspiracy theory, right? Like, and not to mention, like, he had a lot of friends that he would bring over, a lot of influential politicians, businessmen, artists, even fucking Prince Andrew, of all people, he would bring them over and let them have their way with all these women. Not all of them, like not all people that went there knew what was going on, but probably a lot of them. So as you can see, there is like this little grain of truth in it, in this theory, that this disgusting person did this to these women, and some of them turned out to be underage, even though they weren't really kids. And there is this other theory, this conspiracy theory that says that this is happening. So they kind of share certain aspect, but the thing is, it's not the same. There is no global conspiracy that, like, there's some like rich, people that are like, oh, let's assault some kids. This is not a thing. Another step up from that is the whole QAnon stuff, where people believe that, basically there's this whole like global shadowy cabal of people that also consists of powerful and rich people that eat babies, that literally sacrifice them. They kill them and offer them to the devil. Like, this is
a mishmash of conspiracy theories, which holds Donald Trump as a savior of the world. And they hold some disturbing views.
The pandemic wasn't real, and the race war isn't real.
It's creeping into the mainstream of political conversations.
Just this past weekend, Trump retweeted QAnon.
There is a grain of truth in it, but it is not true. Like there is some truth in it, but the rest is just made up. It's just bullshit. It's just what people basically made up in their own imagination and just spread. None of it is factual. None of it makes any sense. You don't even have proof for that stuff. And without proof, without facts, and without logic, where would we be? However, certain of these theories that usually start online, where just people talking to each other and exchanging ideas, can turn into very harmful theories. And one of the, in my opinion, most harmful conspiracy theories, or plural conspiracy theories, are the ones about COVID-19 and the still ongoing pandemic.
Facts don't care about your feelings. And let me tell you something, dear. You must have been the facts. Because You didn't care about my feelings.
Facts versus beliefs. A lot of governments of the world responded fighting all these misinformation campaigns and conspiracy theories by basically trying to educate people about certain facts. The thing is, and what I also believe, is that people, if they have like a set of beliefs, they don't care about facts, especially if they are science deniers. You know, if they don't believe in science, they don't care about your facts. There are actually studies done on this. For example, there are studies on GMOs. GMOs are genetically modified organisms. 90% of all scientists actually agrees that GMO plants are safe for people. People can eat them and they will be fine. They're not gonna get cancer. They're not gonna get sick. Any of that. There are a lot of people that they have the set belief that if it's not natural, if it's genetically modified, then it is not good for me. And they will fight GMO plants to the death, even though scientists are saying that they're completely fine. And this is something I used to believe before I looked into it, that I thought, oh, it's genetically modified, it's not natural. Well, guess what? Not everything that's natural is good for you. Like, plutonium is natural. It doesn't mean that you should put it in your mouth. Cancer is natural. Definitely not good for you, when it happens. Organic stuff is actually more detrimental to our ecosystem, and especially to climate change, because they require way more resources than GMO plants. So GMO food would actually be a more sustainable choice, feed more people and be less bad for the environment. It's kind of an oxymoron, but because it's not natural, it's not good for you. That's what people believe. And if someone has a set of beliefs, it doesn't matter how many facts you put in front of them. They don't care. This is not the, facts don't care about your feelings. Like, people don't care about facts.
Everyone, this is Bibi, editing the video and adding a disclaimer. GMO crops are a very complicated issue, and I believe I oversimplified the matter a little bit. Obviously, I'm not saying GMO crops are these flawless science experiments and they are perfect the way they are and they don't require any more research and everyone should just shut up and eat them already. Issues like food allergies, antibiotic resistance, or even the future monopoly of certain agricultural companies having the rights over the biodiversity of our food are very valid concerns. However, all these matters are currently strictly monitored, will be further researched. There are many national and international bodies that have reviewed the health effects of commercially marketed genetically engineered foods, and they have concluded that they don't pose risks because of how they were made. One such body is the Committee on Genetically Engineered Crops, Past Experience and Future Prospects, created by the National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine. All I'm saying is, GMO crops have a lot of potential. They could even be the answer to how we could potentially meet our CO2 emission goals by engineering crops that would be able to filter more CO2 out of the atmosphere. Sadly, our current agricultural system is not eco-friendly enough, and organic food isn't doing anyone any favors. GMOs could be the answer to a big problem that our world will be facing very soon, if not already. So give GMOs a chance. These 100 Nobel laureates also say you should. And who knows, maybe in the future I'll make a GMO video. Yeah, let's see how this one does. Anyway, back to the actual video.
And it's so interesting because I actually watched multiple interviews, all these different shows that are hosted by anti-vaxxers and people that engage in these conspiracy theories about the vaccine being dangerous and the coronavirus just being a flu and it's not even real and all these things. I listen to these people, and a lot of the time they actually sound like they know what they're saying. They speak so confidently about what they're saying that I totally get why certain people that don't know any better, that are not educated, listen to these people and they're like, wow, God, these people know what they're talking about. But actually, it's just the Dunning-Kruger effect.
You don't even know what is in the shot.
Marcus Lamb, a broadcaster reaching hundreds of millions of people around the world and who vocally opposed the COVID-19 vaccine, died after battling the virus.
Really? Silver is the weapon against coronavirus? on other strains of the coronavirus and has been able to eliminate it within 12 hours.
This misinformation on climate.
There's no such thing as climate, right? What? Climate and everything are the same word.
What the f? And this one on race.
I am white. Actually, that's a lie, too. I'm kind of tan.
Bruh. I think for the most part it's safe to get vaccinated. But if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I'll go no. He later added, if you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, I don't think you need to worry about this.
Just because you think you're immune to it, guess what? Your pocket ain't, bitch, because a lot of shit comes from motherfucking China, bitch.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is basically the less someone knows about a certain thing, the more they think they're qualified. The more a person knows about something, the less they think they're qualified, or the less they think they know.
Hi again, this is Bibi for the second time. I just quickly wanted to add something. Now, a lot of conspiracy theorists are Dunning-Kruger victims, but in a way, it's not their fault. Most people aren't researchers, they aren't familiar with the scrupulous scientific method, or are just not versed in the complex language scientists often use. Only a small percent of people in this world are experts on topics such as epidemiology, genealogy, or immunology. Not even your doctor is educated enough to research a cure for COVID, because a medical degree can only give you a very surface level understanding when it comes to fighting a global pandemic. Now, in my opinion, this could have been resolved a long time ago. Like, guys, scientists, researchers out there, can you maybe start communicating your findings in a way where the broad public can understand it? I totally get that this shit is complicated, but maybe make it make more sense. For example, recently I was pleasantly surprised. I read Immune by Philip Detmer, the author of Kurzgesagt, and finally read a medical book that didn't make me want to fall asleep. It still gave me a feeling like, on a surface level, I understood what was being communicated. Maybe this should be part of the scientific method, teaching experts how to talk to the rest of us so we can all benefit from their work. Yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway, there is also another big problem when it comes to experts. Recently, a lot of people have been starting to question scientific experts. Why? Well, I'll get to that in a second, but for now, let's keep going.
Now, let's actually talk about corona. Coronavirus, COVID-19, the plague, because I do want to discuss COVID specifically, because most of the stuff that I am talking about and the reason why I'm making this video basically stem from the pandemic. I just want to put actual facts out there for anyone who's maybe a fence sitter and they are not quite sure yet about what they're supposed to believe, and they're still making their mind up to just look into this. And I just want to give them some facts, some actual facts, and not just some beliefs that I have that are completely non-factual and just in my head. Overall, there are about, I think, a little bit over 5 million people that died due to COVID globally. Now, this number might have changed because I wrote this video in November 2020. I'll put the actual number of deaths on screen. This is a fact. This is a global scientific statistic, and I can't help you if you deny this. There is nothing we need to talk about. I still want to read you some other statistics, because COVID didn't affect, our lives just because people died, right? Of course, that's horrible, but it also affected us in many other ways, and I just want to read you some statistics. Oh, and I just wanted to add, COVID-19 is actually the 5th deadliest plague or, disease that spread across the globe. It's right behind HIV, actually. So yeah, hope it stays there, because HIV is kind of a bummer. So, for example, Peru has the highest COVID-19 death rate in the world with 615 deaths per 100,000 people. Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Bulgaria have the highest death rates, each with more than 300 deaths per 100,000 people. So that's Europe, This is an area that I know, and I just don't know what to say about that. It was very much preventable. Meanwhile, the United States has had the most overall deaths, with more than 741,000 lives lost since the beginning of the pandemic, following by Brazil, more than 600,000 deaths, and India, more than 450,000 deaths. Several other countries rank highly both for overall deaths and death rates, including Mexico, the United Kingdom, Italy, and Colombia. However, a lot of low and middle income countries with younger populations are seeking waves of death because of weaker healthcare systems that make it harder for sick people to access life-saving therapies. This is particularly the case in some African countries like Eswatini, I hope I said that right, formerly known as Swaziland, where many people who live in rural areas don't have access to health facilities, and where the health facilities that do exist might not have adequate access to oxygen, as oxygen is very important to you if you do get COVID. However, not everyone lives in a Western country and can access it. And it's not just the inequalities of healthcare systems that drive deaths. Many countries have seen vast racial and socioeconomical disparities in COVID-19 deaths. Christoph Morse, a professor at the Milken Institute School of Public Health at George Washington University, says that poverty has made it impossible for many people in marginalized communities to protect themselves from the virus. Some still need to commute to work to provide for their families, while others might not have access to running water that's necessary for practicing good hygiene. It's just heartbreaking to see how hard they've been hit, he says. The pandemic has disturbed efforts to provide preventive care for diseases like tuberculosis, as well as other communicable diseases like malaria, measles, and Ebola. The WHO says in the case of tuberculosis, the pandemic has reversed years of global progress. In October, the organization reported that deaths from tuberculosis have risen from the first time in more than a decade to approximately 1.5 million, on par with the levels seen in 2017. Tuberculosis diagnosis also fell by 18% in 2020, back to a level last seen in 2012. And then there is a toll that COVID-19 is taking on families and communities. Although each death is enormous loss, poignant new data shows a rise in children who have been orphaned during the pandemic. A study published in July in the Lancet establishes that 862,365 children in 21 countries have been orphaned or lost a custodial grandparent due to COVID-19. South Africa, Peru, and the US have seen the highest number of newly orphaned children. So yeah, those are some statistics. And I do think that conspiracy theories, to a certain degree, are responsible for these deaths. They're responsible for over 5 million people being dead. They're responsible for many children being orphaned. They're responsible for the global financial recession and certain people losing their jobs, their livelihoods, their homes. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that certain conspiracy theories and the way they're spreading right now can actually be very dangerous to our functioning societies. The thing is, we live, so I come from Slovakia, but I live in Austria. We live in Western democratic countries, and we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of belief, because partially also because of postmodernism, we no longer believe in objective truths as much. That's something I was taught at uni, like objective truth is not a thing. Like we don't know what's true and what's not true, because of course in 10 years something else can come up and suddenly scientists will have to rewrite all their books. For example, I was affected by COVID specifically. I lost 1 year at my uni. I'm studying film, and because of COVID I had to reschedule a lot of projects, and eventually I ended up losing a whole year. Now, instead of 3.5 years for my studies, I'm gonna need 4.5 years. That is almost 5 years of your life. It's something that really made me upset. And not just that, I sadly also have family members, particularly my mother, that fell down this conspiracy rabbit hole, but more on that later. I don't want to get into that right now. I do think that we need to be able to come together and agree on certain things. There needs to be some kind of objective truth that we all have to agree on, because if there isn't one, then how are we supposed to get through a big issue like this, right? Like, How are we supposed to get through a pandemic and make sure that people are not going to die if we allow people to spread lies and half-truths and complete and utter nonsense?
How are we going to get through this? Well, we're going to discuss that in part 2 because otherwise this part would be too long and I want to squeeze at least 2 videos out of this recording session because who knows when I'm going to upload again. Anyway, just to add one more thing, this pandemic hit particularly young people pretty hard. You know, young people like me that are still going to school, people that are looking for jobs, people that are just starting their lives and had to quite literally put their lives on hold for the sake of our elderly, which I'm not mad about. I love my grandma. I just wish she would have gotten the vaccine and her daughters didn't poison her mind with fear and misinformation. But what I actually wanted to say is this pandemic also affected the mental health of so many young people and especially children. And I would like to just quickly address the older people out there that do have kids or grandkids that are still not vaccinated, that still don't care about the pandemic. Look guys, this isn't going to be over anytime soon because as we found out, coronavirus is here to stay and potentially hit us with a new wave every year, even though it seems that most governments of the world are loosening the restrictions and kind of forgetting that corona even happened and letting the pretty weak Omicron wave infect as many people to sort of achieve a herd immunity, and that's cool, but you can get COVID multiple times. Heck, my boyfriend's dad already had it twice. I'm pretty sure we're going to start hearing about COVID again once summer ends and the virus mutates again. So until then, can you please start thinking about us? Young people who are just starting their lives and trying to build something for themselves? Can you please think of the children that are sitting alone at home during lockdown and can't see their friends? Can you please think of the kids that lost their families due to COVID? Can you please think of our future? Because it seems that you just don't care about kids.